Yo, what the hell's up? Welcome back to Reviews with Jake, where I just got done watching Lamb. Lamb is a new A24 film from Iceland, in which we have a childless farming couple that adopts a strange lamb that is born on their property. We will just leave it at that. This isn't a new movie by any definition. It's been out for about a month now, but I have a strange lapse in movies here in early December that I had nothing else to review, so I'm like, sure, let's check it out. Which is, full disclosure, a little frustrating considering how many huge titles are coming out late December, but nothing comes out early December. Like, can we spread that out a little bit? Late December is so nuts that I know for a fact, an absolute certainty, that there is at least one huge title that I am not going to review. It's not going to be another Dune type deal where I get to review it a couple weeks later. 2022 is breathing down its neck and time is of the essence. It's going to have to go. I already know which one I'm not going to get to. I could tell you right now, but I don't see any upside in that. I like to keep you on your toes. Hey, it's December now. 'Tis the season for Christmas surprises. A gift wrapped under the tree, except I guess it's not really a gift, it's really what I'm not going to give you, so I guess this metaphor is crumbling. But in the meantime, we get this, probably a really f***ing weird movie. Classic A24. Well, let's start this list of pros where I honestly expect to top every single list of pros every time I go into any movie from this distribution label, and that is prime direction. This film is a very well-crafted, well-oiled machine with very great cinematography and shot compositions, a lot of oneers with really meticulous execution. A very cool, cold color palette that really emphasizes that sensation of isolation that you feel while you watch this film. Fantastic sound design, really squeezing and wringing out every possible sound that could possibly be produced while managing a farm on a daily basis. The Foley of this film really carries a lot of the weight of the audible experience of this movie, especially since the soundtrack is so minimalistic. It's barely there, but when it does show up, it's very brooding and beautiful. What was also very beautiful were the landscapes and scenery found on this very isolated farmland. Of all of the beautiful places out there in the world that I have been missing out on thus far, Iceland was never really a headliner on that list until I met my girlfriend years ago. When discussing places we'd like to go and see, Iceland was really high on her list, and I always thought that was really random until I saw pictures of Iceland, footage from Iceland, or movies like this. Serious dark horse contender for one of the most beautiful places in the world. Do not sleep on Iceland. I hope to go there someday, but for now, I get movies like this, and it's beautiful. It is truly a perfect backdrop for a film like this. It's beautiful, it's stunning, but it has a strange aura to it. That is this film. It is very weird, it's strange, it's unsettling, it's very unpredictable. What I love most about it is the very patient pacing and the methodical writing. It is a very slow burn film, but I was prepared for that going in. They didn't market this film with trailers to be very exciting, nor did I expect it given the premise, so I kind of went in with the right mindset, and maybe that was pretty key here. What I will say though is while this film is not exciting, while not a lot happens, I was never bored. I was at the edge of my seat with tension and intrigue. With each passing scene, I got more and more interested, curious to see what they were going to show me next. Last week, I highlighted and acknowledged my pure hatred toward blatant exposition, how I complained about it all the time, and how Resident Evil last week was probably the worst case of it I had seen thus far this year. This film, however, was probably the best case of it. So very little was taught to you as an audience member while watching the movie, and I really appreciated the lack of hand-holding. There isn't even dialogue for the first 10 minutes of this film. You're just watching them go through their daily routine on this farm, and when there finally is a conversation, it's seemingly at face value a very disposable subject, has nothing to do with the plot whatsoever, but you learn a lot about our two characters by just the way that they engage in this conversation about this topic. You learn about their relationships, their lifestyles, their mentalities, everything. That is what it's all about. I hate when films feel like they need to tell me something. Just show it to me organically. And this film did all of that brilliantly. This is obviously made a lot easier when you have very talented, capable performers on screen. And really, this is a three-person show in this movie, but I thought all three of them carried the film well. They are Icelandic folks and names that I would inevitably butcher if I were to try to vocalize them for you, but I just wanted to give all three of them their due respect. I also want to give a shout out to the animal wranglers on this set, as naturally with this being set on a farm, there are a lot of creatures. Goats, lambs, sheep, dogs, cats. There are so many animals on this farm, predominantly featured on screen, a lot of them for really long takes. Obviously, animals are not nearly as coachable as human being actors are, but seriously, you could have fooled me with this movie. I don't know how they got all of these different animals to do the things that they do, cooperate the way that they do, but it was really damn impressive. That is definitely not an aspect of film that ever gets any praise, but I have personally and professionally tried to film dogs before, and it is borderline impossible to try and get them to do the things that you want them to do at the time and the way that you want them to do it. It just doesn't happen. You waste so much film. This is probably why films like The Call of the Wild last year with Harrison Ford default to CGI animals, because it's like impossible to try and get them to cooperate for film. Now, I don't think that any of the normal animals in this film were done via CGI. There are a couple exceptions. I'll get to that and all of their flaws. If any of the normal animals were indeed CGI, they were done so well that it fooled me, but I assume they were real, and I assume they were very well trained. However, as I just mentioned, some of the things that they do visually with some of the animals in this film were a little too out there and ridiculous for my taste. I'm going to speak very vaguely to avoid spoilers, especially if you haven't seen the trailer. If you have not seen the trailer for this film, you should just watch this movie without it. It'll be a treat. I don't know if they were looking for the audience reaction of laughter for seeing this visual, but every time I saw it in this film, I laughed myself for a moment out of the story. Which is a bummer because this movie requires your focus, attention, investment in the characters and the story. So with that, I feel like if it's a conscious decision to put something in there that's gonna laugh and distract them, I feel like this is kind of an instance of them shooting themselves in the foot. This story and plot, at least at face value, is a very simple and easy one to focus on and attach to. At least I think it should have been. However, the film does introduce a few subplots, a few extra threads that kind of overcomplicate and thicken the plot when I just didn't think that it needed it at all. I'll sort of leave it at that. There's just a couple extra caveats they introduced to the plot that I just didn't feel like needed to be there. It was just extra drama fodder. Now, the ending. Vaguely stated, the ending of this film definitely lands in the cons for me. It is just so bizarre. It wasn't just a simple matter of not sticking the landing. It honestly makes me question and rethink the rest of the film, which I honestly really enjoy. The best comparison I could possibly think of is if you're looking at a map and you look at the legend and the key in the corner and you're like, oh, okay, that equals that. Good to know. Then you look at the rest of the map according to that information. In a very similar way, I feel like I looked at this movie very early on, I understood it, I wrapped my mind around it, I was looking at it through a very specific lens. But going back to the map analogy, what if you're looking at this map for, say, an hour and 45 minutes, give or take, and you realize that the legend and the key is not the legend and the key for the particular map that you're looking at. So suddenly all the assessments and observations that you made about the map just don't really hold up anymore. It almost feels like it needs an asterisk. That's kind of how I felt after this film concluded. I didn't really know what to think. I felt like I was watching it through a very specific lens that I've kind of created and adopted through how many different A24 films that I've seen in the past. Then all of a sudden it felt like at the end I should have just thrown that lens out the window because it didn't make sense. I felt the need to rewatch the film immediately or do additional research on it, all I guess being very A24-like attributes for a movie, but I don't know, it just kind of felt like I was a little deceived because I was honestly enjoying this film, this series of moving pictures with this lens. Then when I found out at the end I gotta throw this one out and get this really weird one, I don't know, I kind of wish I'd be able to keep this one. This probably doesn't make any damn sense whatsoever. Sorry this is so vague, seriously, what the hell did I just see? All in all, this is a very slow, uneventful, and weird film, but I can't deny that it was really well made and I was intrigued. The ending definitely threw me for a loop, but I cannot deny that this movie is one of a kind. Like, what the damn hell? I'm going to give Lamb a B+. But that is just me. What do you guys think? Know if you agree or disagree in the comments below. And make sure to subscribe to this channel to stay up to date. New videos coming real soon. Stay safe. Thanks for checking in.